Hello, everybody. I'm Ben from The Salted Tree. You're listening to The Salted Tree, episode 3 of season 2. We have a action-packed episode for you guys, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey guys, I'm Untitled, and definitely looking forward to this episode. Can't wait to see what everybody talks about.
Hey guys, I'm Peyton.
I'm Sklar.
I'm Silas.
I'm Ziekii.
I'm Scott.
And we have a brand new member of The Salted Tree. Yari is our new editor extraordinaire. He's going to be doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we're really excited to bring him onto the team. And if you want to join The Salted Tree, just join on in, send me an email or Aniket an email, DM us on the Salted Tree Instagram page, whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you are included. This episode is going to start off with life at George School as a boarder. And it's been a pretty eventful week as a boarder. I know within Lower Drayton, we're now allowed to go in between floors, which has been really great. We get to interact a lot more. I get to see and have fun with everybody in my dorm. Obviously, social distancing is still a pretty big deal, but it's good to see that we're getting new privileges slowly but surely, and I hope that that continues throughout the year.
Just like Ben was saying, I'm glad we're getting privileges, but not to get too negative off the bat. I feel like there's like certain things and certain rules that, to me personally at least, don't make sense. Teachers are giving you 3 strikes, and you get 3 strikes, you get sent home. But what they're not doing is they're not telling you if you have a first or second strike. They only tell you when you have a 3rd strike, which is when you have to go home. So I'm a prefect in Upper Drayton, 4th floor, and I have 2 of my kids just got sent home either this morning or yesterday. And both of them didn't know that they had 2 strikes when they got their 3rd one. One of them had just come right out of the shower. He didn't have his mask on. He was walking from the bathroom to his room, like I said, right after the shower. Somebody caught him and he got sent home, right? And like I said, he didn't know he had strikes until he got sent home. And to me personally, I'm going to try and keep it brief, but that just doesn't make sense. How do you expect somebody to act better if after strike 1 and strike 2, you're not telling them they have strikes? You know what I mean? Because I know those kids would have tightened up if they knew they had them strikes. So those are just my thoughts on a couple of rules. You guys, what has your guys' experience been like?
Well, just adding on to what Ziekii just said really quickly, I know that sporting events and practices have been canceled due to too many players having strikes. And I know that a lot of the student athletes here really use sports as a way to, decompress, take their mind off of all the schoolwork that we get. And to cancel practices, I think, really takes away, a way for them to get rid of a lot of the stress that's going on. Being a George School student can be really stressful. And I think that it would be a lot better to be open and vocal about what's going on campus and making sure that social distancing is happening and people know when they're making mistakes, but having it sort of under the table like it is now, I don't think is very helpful.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, related to Ben and Ziekii's point. Teachers, well, some of them, not all of them, are kind of just sneaking around, kind of trying to catch you. It's a disciplinary action. This is not for trying to get us in trouble. This is for our safety. So if we need to spread out, you need to tell me, because I obviously didn't notice. I'm not trying to do it on purpose. This one teacher specifically yesterday, me and my friends were eating on Red Square and we were just a little bit too close together, and he told us the distance, so we did. And then we had our masks on, and then later this girl came up to me and she said, he was recording you guys. And we're just why? We spread out. He told us the first time. Why didn't he come back and tell us you guys aren't far enough? This is not about me getting in trouble. This is about keeping me safe, keeping the whole community safe. So.
That's really uncomfortable. That sounds really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and last thing, just to add on to what Peyton was saying, I've seen a lot of teachers just lurking, you know what I mean? And before they even tell you what you're doing wrong, sometimes they don't even tell you what they're doing wrong. I've seen multiple teachers, but one yesterday, this specific teacher, he didn't tell the kids what they were doing wrong. all this teacher did, I'm trying not to say he or she, but all this teacher did stand far, far, far away, to the point where if you weren't me and you weren't looking around for that, you wouldn't have seen them. They just took a picture. They just took a picture of the students doing what they were doing wrong. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, everybody wants to say we're just trying to promote the safety for kids, but what safety does that promote? You know what I mean? Just giving me a strike under the table and not letting me know. And another thing is they keep canceling these activities. If you're a boarder, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But they cancel these activities because they're scared of us not social distancing, but they give us nothing else to do. And then they get mad when we hang out with each other outside. You know what I mean? So in my head, at least, that's a little hypocritical. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there.
Moving on into our next topic, which is pretty well connected with what we were just talking about, something that I think is pretty hypocritical are the new in-person classes. And one major issue that I have personally with the in-person classes is that, personally, I feel like George School is trying to make it as restrictive as possible for the boarding students. But meanwhile, as we can see through these new in-person classes, a teacher will have 2 classes going on simultaneously, one being with boarders and one being with day students, and then flip-flop back and forth between these 2 classrooms. And I think that if we were really trying to keep everyone safe, it would be much more separate than how it is now. Obviously, in between classes, the boarders and the day students are intermingling and walking through the same buildings. And I know, especially like when I was trying to get to my class in Bancroft, I was like overran with day students. And personally, like, I know that, you know, I can probably keep myself safe, but for those in the community who are immunocompromised or things like that, it's probably very scary to move from class to class, trying to stay as distant as possible and all that. So I just wanted to know, what do you guys think about the new in-person classes?
Yeah, to Ben's point, like with, say like you're in McFeely, right? And everybody's waiting outside in the atrium, boarders and day students. And it's not all these hallways and stuff like that, they aren't that ventilated, right? To begin with. So you have all these boarders and day students commingling, and it could spread the coronavirus quick. Even though hopefully most of us are wearing masks, it's still, yeah, as Ben said, can be very scary for the immunocompromised. And I think they need to come up with a better way to kind of like get kids around, at least until it's safe again.
The only difficult thing about the situation is like, I don't know what else they would do, because like if we stopped having in-person classes, like there's no reason for the boarders to be on campus anymore. So honestly, like we could all just go home and like do what the distance learners are doing. But like, I don't necessarily want to go home, but I wouldn't mind it. But you know, it would be the only other solution that I could think of is if they like completely edited our schedules to the point where like, and like changed our schedules to the point where like boarders were only in certain buildings at certain times and day students were in certain buildings. That's the only way that I could see they could fix it, and that seems extremely complicated. So I don't know if they could do all that.
Not to sound like a snitch on any account, but these stickers that show like what the flow is supposed to be like when you're going into the building and then out. A lot of people are not particularly fond of those, because I see a lot of people who are disobeying them, and I think that's definitely a little bit of an issue, because you're definitely creating hotspots within the entrances where people can possibly contract the virus. I think something that we also should look at is like, for the day students, how do you, I guess, make sure that you are not accidentally compromising yourself outside of campus? Because like for instance, for me, I can literally do whatever I want outside and then come to school the next day, and like, you know, obviously they're trying to make sure that whatever I do outside, it doesn't really come inside, but still, like, it's definitely something that we have to think about.
Yeah, so just with the entire in-person class in general, I have a question for all of you here. Have I mean, I know it's the first month, and maybe once we have all their classes, stuff will pick up. But have any of you had an in-person class yet where you did something other than study hall, or working on something else, or you watched a stupid video that didn't really matter too much about the subject? Did any of you actually have an in-person class where you did something productive for that in-person class yet? That might change maybe when you get to classes that we've already had like the Zoom lessons for, but as of now, these things just don't seem like, they seem pointless.
Well, I just want to speak to that real quickly. I know that back in the day, in George School, you could actually take classes just to take the class and you wouldn't have a grade. And I always thought like, wow, that would be pretty cool if they did something like that now. You know, you could take an art class and not have to worry about a grade, or you could take a science class that you wouldn't be able to take and not have to worry about the grade. You wouldn't have to do any of the tests and any of the quizzes and any of the studying. That is what I was looking forward to for the in-person classes. However, I feel like now, since you can't really, the teacher isn't allowed to push any real material because it would be unfair to those who can't come in. It has been a lot of busy work and it has been a lot of study hall, but hopefully the teachers can find a way where we can still benefit from coming to the classes and still get like a leg up on the material and have sort of like a worked in consultation group study type thing. And I'm hopeful that the teachers will find a way to have a good agenda for these classes, but I do have to agree that so far it's been a lot of study halls.
Let me just chime in here because I think, Ben, you raised a really good point. And as teachers, we're a little bit in a challenging dynamic, but I think, you know, Skylar, to your point that we, specifically for this first month, I think we need to get through this first unit, this first month, because I know in my situations, I'm trying to add enriching content, but we can't advance anything new for lack of leaving anyone else who can't be there for whatever reason behind. But also, I haven't, like the people I'm having afternoon classes with, and not to mention it's been staggered. So like week 1, I think was just senior day students and freshman day students. And so it's been staggered, but we're just getting to know them. They're getting to know me as a teacher, and I'm getting to know them. I think I'm actually looking forward to the next time. So I've had a month of those remote classes, and then we're going to be like Ziekii to our, you know, our class that we're meeting in person next month. We have so much that we can do interpersonally, and it's nothing here is ideal. And I hear everything that's going on, and I share a lot of those concerns, but I think we just all have to, I'm hoping that it's not us versus them. I don't hope that there's not a dynamic at all like that. I think we're all trying to make the best of all of this. So I'm really looking forward to the next cycle, personally.
And I really appreciate Scott for saying that. And I just want to take a moment to thank the teachers. My mom's a teacher and she sucks at technology. You know, she can't even use her phone right. And she's been really frustrated with switching to online school. And I'm sure that a lot of the teachers at George School have as well. And George School wouldn't be what it is without the teachers. So just wanted to take a quick little minute to thank them.
No, yeah, I agree with Ben. My dad's a teacher, and it's been tough switching to online school. Like all these teachers, they want to be teaching in person, and like it's really tough. And for most of these teachers, I mean, we owe a great deal for them for trying to push and continue our education. So yeah, thank you guys.
So transitioning now, we just took a minute to sort of talk about how school is going from a boarder perspective. Obviously, we got some day student perspectives mixed in as well, but now we want to transition into strictly how is it going to be a day student.
It feels pretty weird, not going to lie. So I'm doing I come in around 1:15, I hang out in the library, 45 minutes, whatever. Go to my in-person class. Well, I used to leave, but now I do sports. Then I leave around 5:30, whatever. And it's definitely very weird. And we talked about this when the boarders were talking. I think Ben brought this up, if I'm incorrect. That when these in-person classes happen and they intermingle between the boarders and the day students during these in-person classes. It definitely feels weird, but for a day student right now, I think it's all right. Definitely boarders have it worse, but everything just feels weird in general.
At like 8 o'clock every morning, I'm in the FAC as a junior, and we're just kind of there, right? There's a lot of downtime, I guess you could say. Like, there's a huge lunch break, which could structure it a bit better. I heard that they're not doing any of the 1 to 2 o'clock classes anymore, which I'm super thankful for. But I agree with Sklar. Overall, it's good. We definitely, I feel for you boarders. It must be rough, but like, yeah, I'm just very grateful we're back on campus.
So one of the new things that just happened recently was the new rule change to where day students can't go back to their car anymore. Yeah. I wonder, I don't know if boarders want to have some input on that, but I just think it's not that big of a deal. Like,
I've heard a lot of people say otherwise though. Like, some people feel like very strongly about it.
They would be able to, like, for day students, like, to park, you have to go through like a little gate which is monitored by 1 or 2 people. So they'll definitely know if you're leaving, and if you're leaving at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, they'll know that's a bit weird. So I was just asking for day students and also boarders, just their ideas on that.
I mean, I'm obviously not a day student, so I can't speak to what that rule is like. But I was having a conversation with some of my friends earlier about this. I think the school's just like scared, to be honest with you. There's a lot of liability on their hands. Like, if I was complaining about the rules earlier, like there's certain things I think don't make sense. But at the end of the day, you have to think about. I try to think about it from their perspective. You know, our parents like entrusted them with us. You know what I mean? So I feel like to a certain extent they're being overly cautious, and that causes them to make a lot of rules that we don't think make sense. But, you know, I think we should have some sympathy about the fact that they've got a lot of pressure on their hands. They've got a lot of stuff to think about. You know what I mean? This has never happened before. It's not like they had practice with this. So I just think they're just coming up with different ways to handle things, because we don't know what's happening. They don't know what's happening. So everybody's just like trying to be super, super cautious. So I think we just have to think about what they're going through for a little bit, the school.
I totally agree with Ziekii. Not for nothing, I kind of really like going to school, partly because like I kind of feel like it's definitely like it's like a change where I kind of feel like a little bit I just feel like it just feels better to be at school versus just constantly just staying at home. How's kind of everybody feeling about like distance learning just in general? Like, do you think they've gotten more used to it? Like, I know we had it last year, but now it's like, the fall, it's becoming fall, but now we're still back.
I've gotten used to the distance learning quite a bit, because through my 8th grade year, I've had it, and now in 9th grade, it's kind of like the same thing. But there's one thing about it that I do not really like. We have distance classes through Zoom, and then we have in-person classes along with that. And that kind of confuses me, because I also see on Zoom saying that there's a class, but then I have to go to the building. And I don't think there's any way that confusion can really clear up, but it certainly is something that is quite tedious to get used to.
I wanted to bring a question up as I make a statement here. I'm trying to compare this year and then to last year pre-COVID and how just the homework and like workload situation is. I feel like I'm comparing it, and I think I'm getting considerably a lot less work. But in my head, I feel like it just feels like a lot more because of the amount of procrastination that I am doing. And it's just, I mean, it's definitely probably different for boarders because they don't really have that procrastination. But when I'm doing these Zoom classes, I have my computer right here, I have my phone right there, I have my Xbox right there, and there are so many distractions that are going on in my head. And like during school, if I had like that 2-hour break or that like half an hour break in between each class, I would go to the library and I'd probably do some homework. But nope, in those half an hour breaks, I hop on my Xbox and I play video games. And that's why I'm not I feel like I have more work, but in retrospect, I probably have less work than I did before. And I want to see if you guys have that same reaction, or is it different for you guys?
I've been doing the same thing here and there, but you really just need to absolutely focus on not procrastinating. And honestly, getting into a habit of that will also help you next year and years to come. So diminishing that habit has been a challenge for me and pretty much a lot of people, but it's something that most of us have.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like this year, you gotta definitely be like on the work. But like I know for me, I just started going into the IB program, and I've obviously felt a lot more work. And but one thing that's been throwing me off are the modules. That I mean, I'm so used to like going onto my dashboard, getting everything on the like on the dashboard, and like especially like I'm in Scott's class, right? And I didn't realize that there was a module, and I got so backlogged with work, and I'm still backlogged now. I have to finish up like some close reading movie analysis, but like, and yeah, especially with IB, like how everything's like going virtual, and like you need to plan all these meetings for like your extended essay and stuff like that. It's a lot of work. I've had to talk with like 3 teachers, and it'd be so much easier if I could like talk to all of them in person. But no, it's been like a bunch of emails, a bunch of just online communication. But yeah.
Okay, me personally, this might only be me, but I've had so much more work than I've ever had in my entire George School career. Like, this is actually insane. It might just be because like I've been avoiding IB classes like throughout the entire time I've been here. Like the only IB class I took was Chinese for my whole GS career, and now I'm taking 3 IB classes, and I have so much work. It's not okay. I have no free time during the week. Like if I do, then I'm missing assignments. So it's not cute. I don't like it.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that some of you guys were getting the same amount of homework or less. Like I've been getting more as well. And I think it's because we have so little actual class time. And I feel like to a certain extent, maybe subconsciously, the teachers like, no, we have more free time, so they give us more work. But yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's an unbearable amount, but I would always prefer less, especially since I have to do the SAT this week.
I mean, it's definitely tough out there. Like I've also been getting a ton of work. It's honestly pretty hard to manage, and I think the worst part of it is that I am so sick of my odd classes. I can't wait until next week when we switch to evens. I'm so sick of having them like all day, every day. I know like, oh, I don't want to be back in this class, and I have it tomorrow and the day after that, and they give so much homework. I just can't wait until the end of this week to meet my new teachers, to use in my class. It just gets really repetitive after a while, and I just, it's a little bit too much to handle sometimes. I feel for the freshmen. I feel for the new coming IB members. I can't even imagine how that's going to be this year. So my hat goes off to you guys. And honestly, I'm just counting down the days until graduation. So yeah, that's
No,
my
don't say
last
that.
Oh.
And with that, I'll transition it over to my fellow senior, Mr. Jacob Sklar, for some food tips.
All right. So these tips this week are going to focus around pasta. So a big tip is a very basic tip, and I feel like people forget about it, but it's a very important tip when it comes to boiling your pasta, whatever pasta you're using. But make sure to add a large amount of salt to your pasta. It doesn't come to your mind, but salt does a lot to boiling water. Well, first of all, it adds flavor, but that's the small part. The biggest part is it raises the boiling point, which like to a considerable amount, which cooks the pasta a lot better. So I feel like it's a very common tip, but I feel like just people forget about it. It's like, oh, it's just salt. But you got to make sure to do that every single time. It makes your food so much better. And then I want to talk about one of my favorite dishes that involve pasta. It's a ravioli with cheese and spinach inside the ravioli, and its meat goes as well with it. And it's a chicken sausage blend, and you add some red pepper, oregano. It's like the basic Italian seasoning. and some cheeses like mozzarella, cheddar. And you just mix that all in. Well, first you cook the meat, obviously, then you just mix that all in. And I just think that's really great. One of my favorite pasta dishes, and I think you should all give that a try.
What is the best pasta? The actual physical pasta. Which one is the best?
I think you can't go wrong with spaghetti. It's a very basic, but I think that is a very basic yet amazing pasta. You could do many things with spaghetti.
Tortellini.
Oh, that's a big one.
I'm a fan of tortellini.
Linguine.
I like the angel hair.
I'm a personal ravioli fan, but
Everybody's got their favorites. Hopefully, your favorite podcast is The Salted Tree. This has been Salted Tree, Episode 3, Season 2. Signing out. Thanks, guys.